Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about A Doll's House and more specifically focusing on something that I have mentioned quite a bit actually in my previous videos about this text, which is the significance of moral illness or moral decay as it's known. For those of you that have read the play closely, you'll know that there's a semantic field in this play which is concerned with disease and illness. So you've got words like infirmary, decomposition, moral decay, moral illness, sickness, and so on. And whereas in some respects these words are to do with actual disease, such as Dr. Rank's medical problems with his spine, they are also used a lot of the time metaphorically to do with this idea of miasma, which is this idea of the quality of the air and effectively how infected the air is. And of course, as this play develops, the idea is that the atmosphere and the quality of the air inside the family home disintegrates or decreases in quality because of the level of lies and secrets which exist in that home, which then makes everything wilt. It makes the Christmas tree wilt, metaphorically, but it can also make their marriage wilt as well. So just to give you some context, I found this really interesting blog, and I'll put the link below in the description box, which is fully referenced actually, which is order to kind of contextualize where I'm coming from for this video before I look at an extract from Act 1. So during the Victorian era, death rates were high, and this was because a number of reasons, such as living conditions, addiction, substances, overwork, and also lack of medical advancement compared to today's standards at least. So in 1841, according to this blog, the death rate was 30 in 1,000 people. In 2021, interestingly, still during the grips of the pandemic for many, it was 10 in 1,000. So it changes. So up until the 1860s, the miasma theory of disease prevailed. And this theory suggested that disease was caused by bad smells. So fresh air for Victorians became absolutely crucial, as you can see there in the painting on the right-hand side, standing by the open window. And indeed, many towns and cities in the UK deliberately had green spaces put into them as a place where people can walk to get fresh air and escape this idea of miasma. And then, of course, you had advancements in terms of germ theory and how microorganisms worked, that where things began to change in terms of the way in which we view the spread of disease. So fresh air was ingrained in the Victorian culture, and in women's magazines, one article stated that people who breathe bad air day after day are always in a low nervous state. So there was this direct link that the Victorians were making between the quality of the air that you breathe versus your kind of psychological state. And I don't know if that would still carry weight today. I'm sure that there would be some links to breathing in poor air quality and your actual health. So we might still have these kind of discussions, but this is what the Victorians believed. So I've added this in to contextualize then some of the language that Ibsen uses in his play. Because when you look at, for example, a section of Act 1, which is a conversation happening between Dr. Rank, Mrs. Lind, and Nora, you can see here the words that I've highlighted in yellow are words which are to do with this idea of miasma and this idea of sickness being spread by a degree of immorality. So in this conversation, Dr. Rank, Mrs. Lind, and Nora are talking about Krogstad. And I've just put here down the side some significant notes that might help you in terms of analysing this passage if you wanted to refer to it. Rank calls Krogstad a moral invalid, someone who has been infected by having no morals, and having somebody around you like that is also going to infect the air around you, and also make you corrupt as well. Dr. Rank then also calls Krogstad a rotten, right down to the roots of his character. It's interesting here that, of course, audiences don't know yet that it was Krogstad that Nora got the loan from. So Nora is listening to this and perhaps panicking inside because she's wondering to what extent her own character is going to be corrupted by having dealings with a loan shark such as Krogstad, with such a reprehensible character. Mrs. at the time was a term meaning a married woman of high social standing. So that's why Rank calls her Mrs. Helmer and not Madam or Miss, for example. Nora asks the question, what did he want to talk to Torvald about? And of course, this question is suggesting she's paranoid because she knows that this is the man where the loan has come from. So she's trying to figure out whether Krogstad has gone into Helmer to tell him about the loan now. So she's very paranoid about this. And Rank says, oh, don't worry, it was about the bank, so nothing to do with you, Nora, although he wouldn't know he wouldn't know it should have anything to do with her anyway by this point. So Nora at the end there, she kind of stops herself in this kind of false start. I don't know that this man Krogstad. And by adding in that hyphen there and restarting the sentence, shows that Nora is trying to distance herself from Krogstad and not sound over familiar, because she knows, of course, that this is the man who gave her the loan and who ultimately ends up blackmailing her. Now, you could argue, Krogstad's blackmail is important because, but for that blackmail, Nora would probably still be stuck in her marriage. Maybe this blackmail gives her the opportunity to escape, perhaps. So maybe it serves a purpose in the end that's quite a positive one for her. But ultimately, while she's still in this kind of plaything mood, as playing this doll wife, it presents a threat to her that she's not willing to perhaps comprehend at the moment. And then just the second bit, the words which are to do with decay continue, as you can see here with the bits that I have highlighted. The idea that Krogstad represents a threat to the happy and fresh and clean air of the home. So Rank believes, and some people still do, that those people that have done the wrong thing should not be given second chances because it's unfair to those people that are good. If you give a bad person a second chance, that opportunity can't go to a good person. And then, as Rank says, it means that they end up being stuck outside in the cold. So this idea of miasma and sickness continues to do here with moral corruptness. Mrs. Lind asks or suggests that surely it's the sick who most need to be brought into the fold. And of course, that makes sense when we know at the end that Mrs. Lind and Krogstad were once an item. We wouldn't know it now, but we do know it by the end. So in a way, no wonder she's trying to defend him, because she ultimately ends up back in a relationship with him at the end. Rank is kind of dismissive to that idea. But then look at what Nora does. She suddenly bursts into quiet laughter and claps her hands like a child. And this to me suggests that she's panicking. And she's also a little bit in denial here, that this conversation has got too serious. The air has got too thick. And she doesn't want to deal with it. She wants to bury this prospect of Krogstad representing a kind of risk to any kind of honesty or kind of bring about any sense of ill health or miasma. So she laughs out loud to derail and change the conversation topic. And then Rank patronizes her in the same way that Helmer and Mrs. Lind does. What are you laughing at? Or why are you laughing at that? Do you actually know what society is? And what he's saying here is because she's a woman, she therefore is shouted. Who is she to make a comment about society? Because she knows nothing about it. And in the end, she admits that, doesn't she? She says, you're right, Helmer, I don't know about society. That's your fault, though, because you've kept me a prisoner in this house. I need to leave and find out what society is for myself. So she's not willing to say that now, of course, but she says it later on at the end. So this video was all about, I suppose, delving into this idea of miasma and bad smells and disease. And what we're being shown here through the language is that it's moral decay, it's people's dishonesty and secrets and deceptions, which figuratively affects the atmosphere of the home. And if you invite somebody into your home who's a liar and a cheat and a criminal, the atmosphere of your home and you, as a result of that, is going to get sick because you're in close proximity to somebody of that status and of that label. So hopefully that was interesting. Thank you for watching and good luck in your studies. Thank you.